He is the newly elected president of the Management Association of the Philippines, as founding president of the Blockchain Council of the Philippines, and a leading advocate of AI, cybersecurity, and digital governance for business. He has been among the most vocal proponents of blockchaining the national budget and the proposed Cadena Transparency Law. As business confidence wobbles following the flood control controversy and impeachment complaints against President Marcos, he lays out how technology, trusted institutions, and bold reforms can restore public trust and lift the nation. With us now on Thought Leaders, Dr. Donald Patrick Lim. Good to see you.
Hello, thanks for having me, Cathy. Nice to see you again.
Yes, and congratulations on your MAP
Thank you.
Presidency.
Yeah.
I was looking at your acceptance speech, and a certain phrase there kind of come out of the paper, lift the nation.
Lifting the nation.
Could we have a baselining of that? I mean, exactly where do you see us?
I felt that as management, so though we kind of see ourselves as expert in management, but I thought that it's important for this year, our theme would be a verb, meaning we have to help lift the nation. For the entire year last year, all of us have opinions on how the government should be run, especially in the various corruption scandals and everything else, right? But I think the private sector has, I would believe, we have a better grasp of how how we do management, and we have our point of view. But again, those views has to be, extended towards how can we take action over that, right?
What's your view? I mean, how low have we sunk? If you're talking about lifting the nation,
I think we have a new all-time low. I would think. Because the biggest challenge has never been what we call 2 years ago, we said the challenge when you do a SWOT analysis, geopolitics, you have so many other things, foreign exchange and all of that, right? So mostly external. The hardest is always internal. So now when you look at our country and it's us taking advantage of us and showing so many loopholes in our system, and we do not trust the people who lead us, then that's a very big question mark, right? Business runs on a certain level of predictability. That's why when we look at, when we do our strategic analysis, we want to put a certain level of order. But if our operating environment, which is where we are staying and standing and operating in, is not stable, then it's very hard to really manage our companies and our people.
And it's hard to communicate to the foreign investor,
most
the
especially.
ones who are here and the prospective ones who discover corruption is structural, not an episodic event.
Oh, exactly.
So how do you communicate that?
It's very hard. So even when this exploded, you have so many friends who, a lot of my foreign friends, they would always ask, "How are you?" I said, "Why? What do you mean?" Right? And how? So it means how's your country? They really felt that because of that, business will really be hit. Consumers will be hit. The entire economics of our country will be hit. Right? So I think the "How are you?" has so much meaning when you have a foreigner asking us that. A lot of our business friends asking us that. So when they went into November, December planning, they had to really recalibrate. In those who run a multinational, for example, like before, Philippines is top 1, 2, 3. Now you're putting it, okay, let's put it at the bottom. It's a lot of uncertainty. We still do not know yet what will happen. Let's just all wait and see.
Bottom of the ASEAN?
Yeah, bottom of the ASEAN. Right?
And the oft-repeated phrase, we're one of the fastest in the ASEAN.
Oh, yeah. I don't...
Is long gone.
I don't think so. I think, by virtue of population, we have that kind of a population advantage. We have a young population advantage. We have a digital advantage, right? But I think because of that instability, you would always hear a lot of stories already that 10 years ago, 15 years, VIP, Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, right? And we were really the rising star. But I think the other two have overtaken us, right? Indonesia, by a mile. Vietnam has, I think, arguably or inarguably overtaken us. So I think we're not moving. I think we're always there. Our population is growing substantially. I think we're a consumer economy. We should be lording it over. We have good talents that we're exporting abroad. But why are we still here?
How then? I mean, we're hosting the ASEAN. Yeah. We're the chair of the ASEAN this year. And that is a great opportunity to recalibrate or even, send out the message that we are open for business despite How
The
then can the government
I
and
think
even the private sector work on communicating that
that's
message?
a good question. I think ASEAN would be our final exam, our litmus
Mm.
test. Everyone is here, right? So it will be our test to see if what can we really show them. We can always tell people that those are maybe media is not positioning us properly, and they're just showing all the bad news, right? So now they're here. We do not have anyone to blame because they will really feel, they will see us, right? And we will have to really exert a lot of our strength and show our leadership. What can we, and hopefully what would we want to be remembered for, right? Especially when we chair the ASEAN, are we just going to let this slip away? And that's why I think that I government will have to do what they need to do, but I'm rallying the private sector. Can we take a more proactive role, right?
How so, as MAP president, how are you rallying the troops now to get ready?
So a lot of things. First, we would one of our key thrusts this year is really unity and collaboration across all fronts. A lot of our private sector groups, no, on top of beyond MAP, you have MBC, the chambers, and all of us really working hand in hand. A lot of us somewhat we duplicate a lot of our work. So now we are on one table, no. So and we're really discussing who goes where and who does what. For example, in the like internally, like in the integrity chain, no, that was the blockchain council initiated. We were able to get 57 organizations supporting it, right? So that goes to show, yeah, we can work together, right? For we're now banding together to work for a common good, hopefully a less corrupt Philippines, right? Okay, that was the first experiment. Now we realize we can do more. So we may have very strong points of view on like all the way from the government part, from the anti-dynasty law, right? So we've gathered together and we have strong points of view. We also have to now be more vocal, and I think that's anchored on the ASEAN back when it comes to the business sector. We have to really learn from one another. The MAP, we have what is called AMAN, no? Which is the ASEAN Management Network. So we are working with our friends from Singapore, Thailand, no? And when they come here, it's not going to be purely policies and politics and government, but the business sector has to convene also. So what happens is that, for example, we are also inviting our friends. I chair the Blockchain Council, the Cybersecurity Council. So we are trying to get everyone. Can you invite all the respective councils also have a event, and we learn from one another, and hopefully all of these, whatever learnings we have, we can give it to the government or also apply it in our respective
And
businesses.
where is government in that table as you gather everybody up for a collaborative effort towards ASEAN?
I think we have always invited government. We have always invited. To be fair to this current government, they, in one way or form, they've been always they would always show up. If not the secretary, maybe the USEC or their team would always be with us. Now, whether that goes back up, right, and gets implemented or they create a policy, that remains to be seen because that would take time. But for us, I would always drive the private sector. Let's keep pushing and moving because that is our role. Not only in just create a business and hope that's okay, but I think we have to take part really in building the nation. Building the nation not only because people buy and we pay taxes, but really take a stronger stance.
Well, the government's put out big, bold
Yeah.
reforms at the start of this year, inviting over 300 business organizations in the private sector. What do you make of it?
So I was there. We have, I think, a lot of the cabinet secretaries were there. For me, I think it's a good show for all of us, telling us and reminding us that your government is hard at work, right? We would always request government that while you create all of these policies and you create all of these rules, always just do not forget that the business sector, we have to work hand in hand, have us more involved in it. I know there's a PISAC, no? So there's a Private Sector Advisory Council, no? Which we are a part of on the digital front, but I think there are many different groups under it. I think government has to actively pursue that engagement. No, it's not just a report card. It's really how do we plan for the next 2 more years and how do we plan moving further. I know before when everything was very peaceful, there were several strategic roadmaps 2040, 2045, 2050, right, where we want to bring the Philippines. But I think right now with the current situation, I think all bets are off. I think we have to really look within ourselves. What do we really want to accomplish as a nation? What do we really need to do? Not only government, but also private sector, civil society. How do we play each of our respective roles given what has happened?
And what about media then? What role should it play, and
Um,
does it play in
oh,
in a situation where you just said
yeah.
all bets are off?
Yeah, I think media plays one of the very strong, one of the strongest roles for this. I came from media also, no, and we have always been trained, no. We speak the truth. We have to show everyone what is the underlying, the one beneath the boulder, but at the same time, we have to balance it with also the positive news, because if you think about it around the world, what we show, it gets amplified and then gets reinterpreted. So I think the challenge for us is how do we, again, beneath the 90% good news, how do we find a way also to show that there has been, if you talk to each of the cabinet secretaries, I know they focus on what is good, right? And to be fair to them, some I was learning on site. Oh, okay, those weren't bad. The proposals, the reforms, but it just hasn't been amplified enough for us to appreciate. And maybe because the noise of the many other things have just been there. If you look at it, people say our government it's like a telenovela already, right? There's a new cast of characters. There's a focus of every personality every day and every week, right? It's like a telenovela, right? So when will that end? I think in the business side, last Christmas, I was with the different retail, franchise, all of those different organizations. No, I was talking to their different respective business presidents, and they would say, "What needs to be done needs to be done." I mean, people who commit a crime has to serve their time, but in the very end, we want business to just continue. Last Christmas was actually, there were some are already describing it as something like a COVID year, which is what we don't want. The retail, the malls, when you go to a mall, some are full, but maybe one or two, but most are there's no spending. So not only are the business holding back, we know that people are also trying to hold back because they don't know. Any level of uncertainty is not good, right? I think we all want a certain level of certainty so that we can plan our lives.
Could you
If
quantify what's that level of certainty?
I think when people feel or are optimistic that we are in an okay environment, because if your news feed is always the corruption scandal and everything and the impeachment and all of that and nothing else, and you wake up and you go to bed with only those news, it doesn't give anyone any confidence to go out and face the world, right? So, and that's why I said, no, the role of media is important. Of course, there's the algorithm also of the social media. What gets shared and amplified gets seen also, right? And that's why for us, again, government will have to do their job. Ombudsman and everyone else, the PNP and NBI, whoever has to do their job. Business, we will have to do our job. We cannot also spend all our time, right, calling out the government, right? I think we have to also spend time. We have too much meetings already talking about that. I said, can we focus on our role in the economy to help drive business, to help in whatever way from help the people who cannot afford everything that we're selling.
So now that you're MAP president, how are you now changing the communication and also the focus? If you don't want to be meeting every time because to criticize the government, what are you doing for the economy?
Yeah. So the MAP is a complex organization. We have 1,300 members. We have 25 committees, all having their own undertaking from the ease of doing business. So we work with ARTA and we work with several groups to ensure that any entrepreneur would have an easier time, whether it's filing whatever or they need to register or any documentation, right? So an ease of doing business. In fact, the National Issues Committee is relegated to the more senior people. They're the ones who liaise with government and give the advice. All the way to transportation committee, we talk about very simple stuff. Even the EDSA busway, which I think we're very proud to have helped in a way alleviating the traffic along EDSA, among many others. Right? We have our energy committee. So now we're asking everyone to work together to ensure and plan for our energy, our energy supply in our country. Right? So we have all of these committees all at work and all liaising with government, also activating and asking every everyone in the private sector to work together to create programs and hopefully really run it forward.
But can't they? I mean, there's an issue of trust here. We just talked about truth,
Yeah.
trust or
Yeah.
the lack thereof,
Yes. Yes.
and you mentioned the digital advantage
Yeah.
that
So,
the Philippines has.
yeah. So for one, if you talk about trust, what we always say is that trust. When you talk about integrity and trust, integrity happens is what you do when no one is watching. But integrity will happen if everyone is watching. It will automatically happen because what will you do if everyone is looking at you? You will be forced to do good. If you operate within the shadows, then you can do whatever, whatever monkey business. No? So in a way, and that's what we will always espouse to do. Gather the business sector, ask the government to come in. You know what we are doing. We will keep pushing and pushing, and hopefully we get into a meeting of the minds and we push certain things forward.
You haven't done that. I mean, they've done the
We've
big,
done.
bold reforms.
Yeah.
So presumably they're now liaising with the business sector.
We are. So we will have a series of breakfast forums here. Next February is our next general membership meeting. We have our central bank governor coming to us and all the economists. Hopefully that would, drive a certain level of confidence for all business so that they keep spending in terms of marketing, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of investments, right? So we're hoping that can happen. I think one of the curveballs is really how we utilize technology. So technology meaning that the big question mark is where are we in the AI race? I have come to terms that before we've been pushing AI. We are a country of users, not creators, right? Before we were hoping that we can be the next Silicon Valley. We can be the next Silicon Valley. Maybe we can find our unicorn in the Philippines. Okay, let's not do that anymore, right? We're not a country. We're not a country of creators. So if we are a country of users, we're number one on Facebook, on TikTok, and whatever platform, then let us be a real expert in using it for our respective businesses and for our personal advantage.
What
So-
exactly is being an expert in being a user of technology, given the cybersecurity risk and everything else with the algorithms?
Okay, so all the way it has to trickle down. So this week I have a meeting with there's an induction of a Philippine AI Business Association, right? So we have a global AI council. We work with the corporate. They, on the other hand, they really work with the MSMEs, right? How do you use AI? Ordering, operation, sales and marketing, and all of that. You don't need to hire. You can do it yourself, right? And you execute it within your sphere of influence and within your sphere of control, right? You're right in saying cybersecurity. I mean, so many hackings happening every day. So what we want to do is to, on our level, we even created what is called cybersecurity governance that is now on boardroom discussions. We are also telling the private sector, if you get hacked, that's a problem, right? And now breach of trust within you and your customers, your consumers, and your employees. So as part of ICD also, we said that a board of director, when you talk about if a company is hacked, it is not the problem of a CTO. The responsibility is the CEO and the board of directors. If you forever, I have so many meetings in budget hearings, cybersecurity proposal. Okay, put that next year. We have more important things to do. But then I would say, if you spend so much time investing in the physical defense, like having guards and CCTVs, everything, and your digital assets you don't protect, then you will be held liable also, right? So I think we need a lot of education, re-education on the part of the private sector, the business leaders. No, I think they're catching up quickly, but they have to really allow digital to flourish.
What's keeping them, though? I mean, if not everybody's on board and just keeping it as an afterthought,
Yeah.
cybersecurity expense, then what's keeping them? Maybe it's not good business just
It's-
as yet.
It's the reality of any business where you balance, because everything becomes a nice to have, right? So how do you bring a nice to have to what is a necessity? Cybersecurity before was a nice to have. Oh, we have a website. We're not yet getting data from the customers. How much do you really want to spend? A firewall is okay already. So, but fast forward to 10 years and 15 years, we are starting to get information from our clients. We have a CRM system. We have all of these systems in play, right? So, and then we said, okay, what we thought was a firewall is okay already is not enough, right? So there has to be a governance system. There has to be checks already. to the point that even, for example, our audit companies have what we call ethical hacking, right? You hire them, they will try to hack into your system, and then, okay, check, cannot be hacked, right? So things like that. So simple things like that. But you need a board to have that, awareness, level of awareness and understanding to push it, right, to the people, no, and to defend it amongst themselves. But always remember, for any organization, budgets are always limited. Every budget hearing is always painful across. I've been to so many companies. How do you balance the importance of something and no imminent danger and making it a priority of today?
Given that you've got exposure to
Yeah.
different corporate boardrooms and your friends consider you a nerd,
Yeah.
tech nerd, how do you then transpose that in government? I mean, who becomes liable, responsible, if and when AI discovers something's wrong here?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Like most digital transformation, tech is always the easiest. I'm not a tech person per se, meaning I cannot program a single code. But for us, what is important as business leaders is to understand how tech plays, right? If this process is slow, we have to use AI here. If we have something to protect, we have to protect them. In the digital front, we have to protect them with certain cybersecurity procedures or platforms, right? So what is important, however, in so many years of teaching innovation, again, I have already surrendered the fact that the boardroom people and the CEOs, they're not innovative. Only because they're older, by default, they have more experience, and they have to manage the business. Innovation would always come from the youngest because they are more in touch with what is happening, right? When you talk about TikTok and how to utilize it for so many other things, right? They're the younger ones. The 5-year-olds can play TikTok, right? So you have innovation always and starts from the bottom. But it should be pushed from the top, meaning the board should always say, I will give you, right? I will give you the power and the air cover, innovate as much as you can, right? So push from the top, start from the bottom, push from the top, manage in the middle. Then the middle manager will say, okay, boss is asking us that we have to do innovation. You have so many, let's manage it now. Let's put it as part of innovation budget or in our P&L. So that entire organization, that is how you execute innovation, all working hand in hand. So you don't over-innovate and there's nothing there, no money there, right? And get so many ideas from the ground, right? But at the same time, you balance it, no, for practicality. So same also with government. That when you talk about government, and you see our president saying, we have to use AI, we have to use, done. He's given us all the air cover already. But I think when you look at how it is executed per department, you need a lead first. Who is the leader of like a digital head for each of these departments? If there are none, then no one is accountable.
But
no
where's
one will
the
drive
youth?
it.
I mean, you just said it's the young ones pushing from the bottom up.
Exactly.
In government, then, where
so
should they be?
Same. They should, when they hire the youngest people, they should open up a lot of how can we hasten, for example, our service to our constituents. How do we, so whether it's executive, right, or in any city, I think they should have a group who will tell them how to make them more efficient, right, using technology. And I know that it's hard to apply because, at the top, you will only be faced with a lot of suppliers, all peddling their wares. How will you decide? And that's why I always say, you start from the bottom, you think this innovation will work, and then later on, you can, I used to, in my previous jobs, when I sit in a tech pitch or a presentation by all my suppliers, of course, I would always say, I will be the last to decide because I cannot decide. Everything looks the same to me. So therefore, you need a group that cuts across. That's why in boards, or even right now in any management organization, we would always say that you need a cut across the 5 generations in the workplace, right? Even those who are the 20, 22, 23-year-old, usually they don't enter the boardroom. You stay there at the back. But I think if they have the same voice in the table, they would have very strong points of view, and they can tell us. We don't have to follow them. We balance them with our experience and wisdom.
Let's take for a moment the integrity chain. You brought that up, and it's an initiative that you got the DPWH and the DICT contributing to track infrastructure projects in a blockchain. What was the experience like, and might that be ready for national rollout?
To be honest, maybe not yet.
Why
right?
not?
So right now, we thought of that idea because we said, again, that's part of what you asked. What can we do? The Blockchain Council, we advocate blockchain adoption, Web3 adoption. The world is going there. And then this thing happened. We thought, okay, now let's put it to work. Within our council, we found a one who has been providing blockchain services. DPWH, would you like to do this? And they were the
Were
ones.
they willing?
And they said yes.
Yes.
That's why we don't need a law. They openly said, okay, here, let's put it on the blockchain. So let's be very transparent and let's show everyone. Right?
And when did the ICT
Okay.
come in?
So the ICT, of course, requires them because they have to have oversight, right? So anything that we do, they are also made aware. Now, the question now, we've launched September 30. That was a very important day. All the orgs were there, and they would be what we call validators, or they would be, they're part of really witnessing all of this happen. But we haven't executed it yet. It's easy to do the signing. And now, comes the hard part, putting it to work. You cannot put the entire DPWH on the blockchain yet because it's garbage in, garbage out. I don't have the credibility of all of those data. But what we have, and that's why in this experiment, in this proof of concept, we have what we call the foreign assisted projects from the ADB, the World Bank, the JICA groups. We were donating this or lending you this money for this particular project. So it's very clear, right? So those were the ones we're putting into the blockchain, and now we will start tracing. Now, again, rolling up our sleeves. Every week we talk to DPWH. Every week, every meeting. I'm there every week also, right? And we're talking to like a room of 50 guys, even on Zoom. You see a Zoom meeting, 50 people there, so many of them, right? It's a big change for them, right? So sometimes, who's responsible? Who's accountable? Who will be doing this? They will just look at one another. It's something very new.
Is it because they don't know or they're just afraid to say so?
Maybe a bit of both. I think Yusek is there. Yusek is always there also. He's the one who was driving it. Guys, let's work on this, right? But then that's when we realize if even private organizations, a change in adopting new technology requires a change in the people in the organization. What more government? So right now we are forcing the learnings and how we do in the private sector. So we're going to push this, no? And that's why we are now huddling every week and sometimes more than once a week so that we get this going. This will be the first proof of concept. Once this is done, because the Cadena Act of BAM, and again, the credit all goes to him. He's the one who also foreseed blockchain being used, and we will be the first in the world if we execute it right. So the Cadena Act has, I think, passed Senate. It's now in Congress. Hopefully, Congress passes it. And now the hardest part is technical working group. How do you execute it?
But before executing it, you have to have the law in place
Exactly.
and implementing rules and
Yes,
regulations.
yes.
But you're wanting to launch in February?
No,
On
in February,
10th.
it's just the DPWH foreign assisted projects on the blockchain. Hopefully, when that becomes law, whatever learning we have in the integrity chain can now be submitted there also. Because there we will share that these are all the challenges. Always remember, in so many meetings from the NEP to the GAA to the bicameral, a lot of the realities, every part of budget is still pen and paper, right? Blockchain assumes one thing, right? That it's digital from the start. If the input is wrong all the way, it would be.
So are you hopeful that you could still salvage those that are pen and paper inscriptions
for me,
and trust that data to put into the blockchain?
Once it becomes law, the first level is the hardest, which is the infra. Because we have to harmonize the infrastructure of every department. And at the same time, we have to make sure that it's interoperable. Every department, I would think, would have a node, what we call a node. So when you execute blockchain, it is saved across all of them. Especially what is more importantly to the COA, for example, to the DBM, and to the different groups who will be using.
Where are you going to get the money to do that? Put nodes in all the agencies.
So nodes are not too expensive. Mm-hmm. They may be just 1 or 2 million. I mean, not that expensive, right? So, but the important thing is, the challenge is the sheer data, right? So therefore, that you put it into a, whatever server or cloud. But so the first budget that has to be approved has to be the infra first, which means, like any company, you have so many departments, so many businesses. We've worked with conglomerates. When they say they want to digitize, it's not about the front-facing. What is more important is the internal. So you have to set up the internal infrastructure architecture right first. Then we start executing the blockchain. because they have to input everything in, and everyone checks off. Then next.
When can you say that using sheer amounts of data as an excuse is already something that, say, covers for the real fact that they probably don't want the truth?
Yes.
That's why they don't want to blockchain the
Yes.
whole documentation.
Exactly. And that is why what we're doing, I'm hopeful, because no country in the world has done that. No country. Right? So precisely,
Not even
maybe
the Nordic countries.
no, I don't think so.
Mhm.
Maybe, I don't know, we can review Estonia because they have always been the case study for blockchain, but I have never heard of a real government budget on a blockchain. And everyone can check not only the nodes, but even the people can verify, right? Because
Not
if
even Singapore.
I don't think so,
Okay.
right? Because if you think about it, if you are the head, do you really want that entire budget for everyone to scrutinize and have a point of view? How can you run a country with everyone having their own point of view? Not only now your
You
cabinet.
just answered your own question.
Yeah.
So it's undoable. It's unrealistic. Are you saying that there's going to be a ceiling to all these efforts to
yeah.
want to
Yes.
put the truth out through blockchain?
The thing is, those are old rules coming from very different times. If you ask any 20-year-old, they understand the essence of transparency. I think later on, let's see, once they start going into government and private sector, we will hopefully, and that's why I said I'm hopeful, because their world will be a very transparent world. Because that is the essence of Web 3. Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, Web 1 and Web 2, where everything is directed to them. Web 3 is community. And hopefully that the real democracy, where there is a real check and balance, will really happen. We will have to wait it out. And we have to go through that process. But I think we can, at the very least, take pride that we are doing it, we are attempting it. Let's see where it goes. Because now we need all the experts, not only the community, but the tech people, the policy people, the business people, all now really working hand in hand to make it happen. Will now be online, right? And everything there, you will see that you will be able to track where each of the monies for each project coming from where and where it is going to be spent, paid to which supplier will be seen. And the 57 industries, so again, not public yet, but we can if all of us decide. But right now, there is literally like a website. We log in and you can check each. You can even we will even show pictures. DPW will submit pictures, right? So there will not be, theoretically now, no ghost projects because 25%, this is the picture of the 25% money released. So we all see it, right? Next, after a few more months, okay, 50%, this is already done, right? Then money released to a supplier. So we can check and trace each activity for each line item.
And what's the response so far of the proponents who know that they will be blockchain for the first time? And you say it's hadn't happened in any part of the world.
Yeah. So for this, I think when we had that launch, we were, I was so happy to see our friends from World Bank, from ADB, JICA, all of them are there. Even our Korean friends were there. The entire heads of business were all there. DPWH, the secretary, the USEX were all there also. So I think it's really for me a statement, okay, we want to work together, but show us how. Because as government, we are not the experts. DPWH is not the expert, right? So they said, show us how. We are all ready. We want to experiment, right?
Accountability goes both ways. I know that you've been talking about the private sector helping government, blockchain, and be more transparent. What about the other way around? Convincing your constituents, maybe at MAP or the business sector, that at a certain point in time when things are working out for blockchaining just about everything, would the private sector be willing to do the same?
I think that is if you talk to the SEC, I think corporate governance is one of their biggest thrusts right now. I remember last night I was with Francis Lim, and he was saying that if you look at the top 50 companies in ASEAN, there were before, like 10 years ago, 11 in the most well-governed companies. Now we're down to 6. So even our conglomerates are trying their best also to follow certain rules on governance, right? So we will drive that. I think that's the role of the Institute of Corporate Directors and the MAP hand in hand. We have a governance committee. I think our role is to really do the checks also amongst ourselves, right? So if, for example, certain groups are flagged, right, that that they are not reporting it correctly, the business will really form a stand and say, okay, we have to check what happened there, right? So I think there is that comfort also that we are checking one another. There is if within the table of the business community, if you do something that is not above board, you won't find that seat in the table back again
So
when you come back.
more comfort, you say, and not a sense of like distrust or mistrust.
Comfort meaning that we believe that we check one another. I think media is there. I think the government is there. But within the business community, we also check one another. So I think we can take comfort in that we are also there to police one another, and we are also holding each other accountable.
We've been talking about blockchaining the budget because no one trusts each other anymore. But really, basically, when we talk digitalization,
Yeah.
we're hoping that it might mean less costlier connectivity
True.
and also more services
Yeah.
online. Where are we now in those initiatives? As the DICT is really
Yeah.
going for transparency and governance.
I think again, I don't want to sound too idealistic because I've always believed, like any organization, and more so the government, you have to take the baby steps to go through it. The problem with sometimes in some parts of our government, baby steps forever, because there would be a change in leadership, right? So I think right now our DICT is working very hard to ensure, because I'm part of a chat group, he will say, okay, no signal here. I mean, he's also challenging us in the telco side to ensure that, especially when the ASEAN ministers are here, there would be like a no signal, right? We also want to make sure that our internet is fast and at the same time it's very reliable. Like any country where, again, we're very different, young and very digitized. So meaning our usage of the internet is very excessive, right? Very excessive. Everyone's online every time, right? So again, the demand is very high. So right now we have to, I think right now, because we only have three telcos, we can only do so much. I think if you look at it on a per country, most countries like a Singapore would have five or six. They're so small, but they have five or six. We have 120 and we have three telcos. So even at like if you divide it by three, or now of course it's not. Now you have the big two lording it over. Uh, all of us together can only do so much to provide that much internet. Same also with energy. Same also with water. And that's why we have to work hand in hand, government and private, work hand in hand to ensure that these supplies remain cheap, efficient, and it's always available.
And also enabling policies like, say, Konektadong Pinoy.
Konektadong Pinoy.
What position does the Blockchain Council have?
Uh,
The AI Council too.
Yeah. Well, for our different councils, we have always been a believer that we need fast internet. We need cheap internet, right? I think internet has to be accessible, right? But right now, with only three telcos having the franchise, right? Well, the three operating telcos having the franchise, I think we don't have enough towers. I think it may boil down again to infra, and Philippines being so dispersed and diverse, and we're an archipelago. It's just so hard to put towers in every corner, right? So I think that's a basic challenge. I think the KP Act, Konektadong Pinoy, has to also in some way or form address that. It's not about just getting so many people coming in, but it's like the highway. Everyone is in, but the highway still remains the same. So again, I always think infrastructure is very important. If private sector cannot do it alone, I think government should have a hand, help, support, subsidize in whatever way or form.
Can it lower the cost of connectivity?
If that happens, yes. As long as because I think for all of us in the telco sector, the cost of capital has gone up, and capex is just very high to set up towers everywhere. So if you bring in more competitors, more players, maybe, but will they invest in setting up more towers, right? Or maybe more fiber. So again, I'm optimistic on Konektadong Pinoy, but I think you have to address also the realities. How can we have faster internet? And I think our secretary is on the right track. We will support him, but we have to again work together to make sure that it works for the best for everyone.
So for all the ASEAN ministers to get signal, we just have to keep them in the city, do we?
Yes. Well,
But we can't do
to be
that.
100% sure, yes.
Right. You
Yeah.
talked about the youth, and I know that you have kids.
Yeah.
I mean, being the nerd
Yeah.
that you are, being in the digital realm,
Yeah.
how do you advise them on how to stay safe, and also work with
know,
or against the algorithms. They're so exposed to deep fakes as
yeah.
well.
One of my more popular talks, because I give talks on AI in the corporate, but one of my more popular talks was in schools, not to students, but to parents, because the
Mm.
topic was what your kids don't tell you about Facebook and everything
What
else.
don't they tell
right?
us anyway?
And if you look at it, I think that the parents today are very detached. Only because I think when COVID came, we are all in our machines and we are trying to find sense of this world, looking for a good news, or all our works there. So everyone has been dispersed to work, managing and communicating the machine. And I think that's the basic challenge. We are not communicating enough. So if you look at today, fast forward to today, there are so many scams happening in the cyber front. If you go to Reddit and if you go to Discord, so many discussions where an OFW who just came here, they have so much money, and their kids would call them, I need cash for my tuition, and they would send it, and then later on, oh, that's not me, ma. What happened, right? So many. It's not like one anecdote. You're talking about hundreds and thousands, no? So I think we have to have a strong education drive towards really the poorest of the poor. I won't be too, I won't say this if only the rich or the richer people are the ones getting extorted of money or whatever, right? But what I cannot accept is the poorest of the poor who only have 5,000 pesos left, and that 5,000 is being siphoned away from them or taken away from them, right? That's very painful for me, when you read their stories, right? So I think education is very important. I think a lot of the private sector has stepped up also in terms of phishing. Most of the banks, most of the fintech companies are saying if they send you if it's a link, do not click, automatic, even if it comes from us, right? So when all of us we get all of these texts and messages already, right? You should have, for example, when we teach families, always have a special code. What is your code, right? That okay, if you think something's wrong, just ask for the code word, right? Just ask for a code word. So then you'll be okay. This is deep fake. This is not really me, or this is just my voice. So even our household help would know. Okay, ano po ang code word, ma'am? Even if you think it's your amo, it's your boss talking to you and wanting you to deliver money somewhere, right? Or deliver the gold necklace in the room. So all of these anecdotes are not anecdotes. Real quantitative hundreds and thousands of stories.
So you've empowered the kids, even the kasambahays,
Yes,
with a
kids
code.
kasambahays, yeah.
You've educated them.
Yeah, and I think that goes to show. I think we don't take it seriously. We thought we're so good in our businesses, in our schools, no, but no one is teaching that because that's the new world. That's a new world, no. Sometimes, and even for example in schools, sometimes when I say if you look at an elementary school, do you still teach via chalks or even PowerPoint? I don't think they will listen to you, right? And the challenge is now, how do you talk? How do you teach them? Maybe can you teach them via TikTok, right? Or via social media? Can you go we're even discussing metaverse. How do you go inside a Roblox and teach your kids there, right? So I think those are certain realities. No, that's not real teaching, but they are there. And when you talk to them in a different language, they do not comprehend.
So, as a responsible digital citizen, what are your personal rules? What are those that you follow personally to be somebody who leaves a digital footprint that you can maybe say be proud of
Uh,
or not be embarrassed about?
No. For me, I'm an advocate of digital, meaning that for any country to be globally competitive, you have to understand all of these digital tools and platforms. Every person professionally has to be digital also. So there's no such thing as a successful professional today who still is not using AI or does not understand. I'll give you one more year, but who doesn't understand what blockchain is? That's Web3.
One more year to understand blockchain, or you're obsolete or irrelevant.
Yeah, that's the discussion of everyone. And say, what is blockchain again? Parang, diba? So I think that's important. I think for a real for a normal person that's not incorporate for Aling Nena in the sari-sari store, a modista doing somewhere in Tondo, right? I think for them, they cannot also not be aware. But you'd be surprised. They're on TikTok, they're on social media, they're really reading a lot and understanding. I think we have too much irrelevant information that they're seeing. I think that if maybe our Department of Education or whoever, if we create more content on TikTok, they would be reading and learning there. But because there's none, then they're looking at whoever influencer doing the dance and doing, that's what they're consuming. And that's why I said, there has to be a concerted effort also in looking after them. Because they're siphoning and really learning as much as they can, but the content that they're seeing before, because it's books. But now they're on social media, whatever they're getting is just whatever is there, whatever they're flipping. If there is more educational content there, whatever, it's not ABCs or the theories, right? But really life lessons, life skills, life learnings, or even people saying, na-scam ako dahil ganyan, right? I got scammed because of this. Oh, okay, now I know. I'm scared. I'll be very cautious now, right? If you put all of those there, then they can become more productive.
So your personal rules, what would you post, what you would not?
Personally, I'm very strict with myself. So I only post on LinkedIn. That's where people have access. Facebook is really untouched, really to just close friends. Instagram, I don't even post. Uh, uh, do not overshare your life. You don't have to overshare your life. I think what is more important, always remember, as humans, it's all about the human connection. Technology connects us, but it's not the main, right? And that's why I think we're losing the human touch. I think, I would always push that the human interactions. For me right now, I don't do Zooms too much. I don't like Zooms. I really want face-to-face. Zoom is there for convenience, but it cannot be convenient 100%, right? So I always believe that if you want work done, if you want life to push forward, if you really want to have quality relationship, it will always be in the real human connections. And that cannot be replaced by technology or any machine.
As a final point, are you going to be making mandatory the learning of blockchain amongst all of MAP's members?
Yeah.
Even the senior ones.
Oh, we will do that. So under the TechGov group, there's a technology group. We will do AI 101, Blockchain 101. We will also ask and invite all the other business orgs to join us also. So not only because we have a CEO conference, that's where we talk the strategy and the policy, but we will have all of these sessions. Remember, we have set put in the digital age. 2000, Y2K, everything becomes digital. Technology told us that, okay, first quarter, okay, you run and play on your own, right? So 2000 to 2025. We are now in the second quarter of the century. This is where everything starts to move very fast. And AI is there. Blockchain is there. Cyber, the basics. They have what is a nice to have becomes hygiene, becomes normal. So if we are still on social media, which is like 10 years, it's so old. Social media is like 2005. It's so old already. If we are still there, I think we will be left behind. And that's why we said we have to drive everyone to this. In ICD, we have AI governance, cybersecurity governance. The boardroom discussion has to have those. Not only the business per se, but also on the tech side. Because we want that by 2030, we don't talk about them anymore. There's no such thing as AI governance cybersecurity. It's integrated into everyone's system. Right? We don't have to say, what's that again? Right? Or do we really have to put that in? That should not be part of any discussion anymore.
Right. Well, you got 2 years to
we'll
digitally enable everybody, including the senior citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donald.
Thank you.
And that was Thought Leaders. Catch us again next Thursday on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
Wow.
And if you haven't done so, like or follow my social media pages. I'm Cathy Yang. This is Thought Leaders.